wonder what it was really like living in Virginia in the capital area leading up to the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War. People could own property here. You could buy a half-acre plot or you could buy more than that, but the plots had to be fenced. That was an ordinance. Very similar to some of the ordinances we have today. Most people who own plots use them to both provide food for the families, for the taverns, if they were running those as a business, as well as areas for rest and relaxation. They grew what we call now heirloom flowers for their homes. They were influenced by the gardening designs that had developed in Europe, especially coming from France, Versailles, Fontainebleau, where there were grand designs with all kinds of flowers, water features, and you will see some of that reflected here on a smaller scale. So let's go look at some of the famous design elements that worked in Williamsburg on small plots and can easily be applied to our yards and gardens today, whether we have a small plot, a container, or a much larger area to work with. We are on Francis Street, and the first historic home that we're visiting, we're going to look at Dr. Barraud's house, and this house is set right on the street front. It was normal not to provide a large setback because you wanted to take advantage of all of the space that was available. This house features a side garden. The half-acre property was divided into more than one area. And this is an example of a formal garden design, certainly not on the grand scale that you would see at the governor's palace. It has the elements, symmetry. It's laid out in a rectangular shape. The paths are bordered by trimmed boxwoods and covered with shells, and underneath that is probably a layer of marl, M-A-R-L, which was used as both soil improver and walkways. In the center is a grassy area, a rectangle that's open, and at the back is a private seating area where you could go out and enjoy some shade and be seen by neighbors. So for a smaller area, it gives me an idea of something I could do in my own yard, but I have to wonder how much maintenance would I need in order to keep this up. All of the shrubs are trimmed in the classical shapes, the way they were trimmed back in the 1774-75 period. This is a representation of a small formal garden, and a landowner who had the money, a symbol of prosperity in one's community. Next door is the Lewis house, an example formal garden design, paths laid with brick and borders of the rectangular area in the center of this yard, nicely laid out with the paved walkways, evergreen plants, everything carefully manicured and contained in size. But it gives a nice walkway and the presentation. Another view of the back part of the Lewis house. You think the property ends here, but no, there's an open gate and a walk to the back. Peonies blooming, spring flowers that are blooming. Nice contrast of colors and leaves. And this would be the privy probably in the back. You can see how the garden was laid out. Easy to maintain. This gives you an idea of something you might want to use for your yard. Now this is interesting. This is the back of another home, and you can see the marl pathway. It doesn't have oyster shells lined with ivy, boxwoods that are carefully trimmed. English boxwoods were a big hit here. Topiaries, designs, So this would be very characteristic of the time. Trees carefully trimmed to create a bushy effect to provide shade and a private area for sitting and enjoying the garden. As we continue, full of daylilies here, the garden is enclosed with evergreen shrubs, fabulous old tree that's been carefully maintained, seating areas around the walk, which here is oval, and the walkway framed with dianthus. The dianthus are reddish scented with white tips. Very lovely, and provides a nice color contrast to all of the evergreen. We're looking at a parterre. That's French that was brought over by some of the landscape designers who were prevalent during this time. What it means is it's a formal level garden. You can see this is level. It has low, intricate, symmetric flower beds bordered by stone and hedging designed so that you could look down from a balcony onto flowers that were blooming at various times. An intricate design. This is very simple, and it's something that we could do on a smaller scale in our home garden. Lots of English boxwood, but this was the traditional surrounding the walkway. You would walk in and you can see the bricks go around and this inner circle of dianthus. Great design idea because they're four rows and they're planted on a diagonal all the way around. So you have pink and red color alternating. As we walk along, this is a pretty sizable lot, and I'm going to have to be careful because the walkway is uneven. I love that you can walk out to the street, 2 guest houses that you could stay in if you came. They're all one piece of property because there is no fence dividing them in the middle. The smaller of the two says Orlando Jones Office. Great example of the shells that were used. And here is the Jones house, and he was the grandfather of Martha Washington. And on the fence is Carolina jessamine. That's a plant native to the eastern United States. It grows in North Florida where I live. Blooms beautiful yellow flowers, poisonous, so you got to watch out for kids. It's a beautiful, and you can see when it's properly trained and cared for, it can be a very thick screening plant and provide just a luscious looking entrance to the back. I love how the colonists would plant vining roses and then train them along their border. And they would have just a beautiful look as you're walking down a busy street. Surprise! This is called a pleasure garden, and it is at the side of the Palmer House. And it's a symmetrical designed garden. You can see the paths that they put shell down, and within the paths are defined flowers. They have white dianthus. They had tulips blooming earlier. We're just past tulip season. Surrounded by evergreens like boxwood. And in the center is a sundial, considered a secluded spot where someone from the family could come and spend some time in the afternoon. Lovely shade from all the surrounding trees. Very simple, something that any of us could do. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 circles, and then a rectangular shape in the middle around the sundial, planted with ivy. The small circles are planted with dianthus and tulips, and the walkways are lined with shells. So each of the garden areas, at least the center one that I can see, has stone around it to define the area. I can't tell if the circle gardens have them or not because they're covered with straw. Very simple outline, would be easy to do if you want some kind of a pleasure garden, or you could even call it a meditation garden, private, shady, where you could escape morning or afternoon to walk quietly around the garden areas. The path goes all around. Contemplate or pray or whatever you feel would soothe your soul, help you rebalance, and release some of the stress of daily living. Walking through these 4 historic gardens in Colonial Williamsburg, I hope you found as much inspiration as I did. From the formal symmetry of Dr. Berard's side garden to the quiet, soul-searching pleasure garden at the Palmer House, these 250-year-old garden design ideas are still beautiful and doable today. Whether we have a small garden plot or a large, wide open area to work with, history has much to teach us about garden design. But the best part, you don't need Versailles, you just need a vision for your garden. For in-depth gardening information, tips, tours, and inspiration, subscribe, Gardener, new videos to help you create the garden that you love. See you soon in the garden.